So we have Bruce live in the locker room in Tallahassee celebrating on the field with the Florida State. And I don't know why, like, we were able to run the ball so well in the first half, especially to the left side, and then all of a sudden we started to abandon it. And like I said, there is some inconsistency.
How are they going to approach this game? How are they going to beat this Florida State team?
Well, we're going to break you guys.
Okay, that's it. The show's over.
In the story, we're going to break you guys. Look, and I'm joking, but it's true.
Lord, the climb continues, KB. Oh my God!
I am sweating.
Look at my heart. Look.
You know what? Yeah, I have so much to say.
All right, and welcome back to Seminoles Sideline 365. I am KB, and as always with me is the old man. We are with you on a Saturday. Sorry, it's been a long week. We're back with you on the Saturday, right before the Super Bowl. So we're glad that you're here with us, whether you're watching live or later on. Thanks for coming by. And yeah, there's, it's the off season. Portal is now sort of officially closed, but does it ever really close? You never know in this era of college football. But yeah, we're back. We're glad to be back with you discussing Noles, because there's always something going on with Florida State, whether it's with conference lawsuits or it's conference lawsuits, or schedules, discussing schedules, or it's the NFL draft that's coming up. Something we'll discuss. Do our little way too early draft forecast, because with the NFL season coming to a close, it's starting to get exciting around that, around where the star players of Florida State are going to go and where they may land. So we'll have a little bit of fun discussing that tonight with you guys. And the old man's got a lot of different topics he's been looking at on Twitter, because as you know, as all Florida State fans know, Twitter's always a buzz with rumors and news and
my comments.
Yeah, and the old man's
and
comments.
I put my name on my comments so they're not associated with you. If there's no name on it, then that's generally KB. Mine are signed the old man.
Yes. So thanks again. So bring your comments. Thanks for coming by, and we'll have a hopefully a fun show tonight, and we'll have some good discussion. So old man, before we get into it, anything, or how's everything been going on your? I know it's been a couple of weeks since we have had a show here.
Well, my softball team has been crushed 3 weeks in a row. Okay, we have some scoring issues. Today we had 5 players missing. I wasn't planning on playing because I've had kind of a meniscus issue in my left knee. But I was fully dressed out for the game. It was going to be no reps. I told the coach I'm not ready probably to go. I need to lay off this, the doctor said. I always try to run really, really hard. And the last 2 weeks has kind of chewed up my knee a little bit. So we're down a player. I have to go into the game. I have to go in. I started. Had got my knee brace on, and go 2 for 3. 2 for 3. One legging it, because I knew I had to hit the ball into the outfield. If I hit any ground balls, I wasn't even going to run because I don't want to damage the knee more. But I hit some good shots into the outfield. 2 for 3. And we got crushed 14-2. we are upside down. You know how the turnover ratio is?
Yeah.
We're like minus 35 right now. So, and we moved up a division because we had a great season in the the winter? In the fall season, we had a great, and they moved us up a division, and we're getting crushed.
Maybe it's not always. Just like football, maybe it's always not good for schools to move up the division.
So with all of that, I need my medicine tonight. We're going with a non-sponsor, Heineken. Just give us a buzz. We'll be glad to, You can't go wrong with the old
There we go.
Heineken. There we
There
go.
we
Look
go.
at my openers golf ball. That's cool.
There we go.
There we go.
And I'm drinking my Dunkin' decaf right now.
How's
so.
your day? How's your day?
It's good. It's been, like I said, long week. Everyone's working hard except for you. You're retired, but yeah, it's been a long week.
I've been doing a lot of home projects, which I shared with you. The smart lock, right? And you had an interesting take on your smart lock, which you live in the north. I live in the south. You said you had some freeze ups, right?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has one of these keypad locks where I actually do
Smart
like it.
lock.
It's nice because if you have dogs like I do, or you're just looking to run a walk, if you live in a walkable kind of neighborhood or stuff like that, I like to walk to things, and I don't like to bring a whole key ring with me, and because pockets aren't as deep as they used to be, and that's my rant for the day. But yeah, it's nice so you can just tap your key in, and you can keyless entry, right? But I found like when we got that cold streak a couple of weeks back where it even hit you guys in Florida, up here it was at some point like 10 degrees almost.
Really?
It like I typed in the key. I went to take the dogs out, typed in the key after I locked the door, and it wouldn't let me in. It like door jammed. I was like, oh my God, am I gonna be walking out here? Luckily,
you're gonna freeze to death.
I did have my key ring on me, and I had the backup key.
Oh God.
But I think some of these cheaper keyless entry.
Well, this isn't a cheap keyless entry.
Well, it's not like $500 either. It's
no,
not.
This is a national brand, Quickset. Let's call it out. Let's say what it is. It's Quickset. You have one. I have one.
Yeah,
I know
nice.
other people who have them without any issue. Right?
Yeah, I'm not. No, and I think it's still. But it was a. I think that there may need to be there may be a recall around the temperature warnings.
You should contact Quickset and ask them about it.
Well, there may have been some installation error. But I digress.
I know who installed yours, by the way. You should see about the warranty.
Well, no, we can discuss that offline.
You know what somebody was saying, and I won't get into who was saying this. A national figure was saying that they were out in Iowa where it was like minus 30 degrees, and that the electric vehicles don't work well when it drops below zero.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's true or not.
I know batteries in general can sometimes their charge can be kind of sapped. In general, batteries look like that. I don't know if those big batteries work like that. That may be some propaganda on that end.
Well, in a lot of frigid areas, though, a lot of people use these heated dipsticks for their oil.
Yeah.
If you ever see that, it's plugged in from the garage. It runs to the plugged-in dipstick to keep the oil warm, which is a big deal because, when you get below 0 degrees, you can do great damage to different things. So, interesting. Hey, you might want to figure out how you're going to handle that key issue.
There'll need to be some maintenance there. But I digress. So, let's get into it. So, like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about you could call it way too early draft predictions, but the draft happens in April, so we're not too far away.
Really? No.
And as we all know, Super Bowl is happening. If you're watching this live, it's happening on tomorrow. If you're not, happens on Sunday, but that'll be a great game. But yeah, we thought it would be relevant, fun to start thinking ahead and looking at this because this is one of the first years in a while. It feels like Florida State's got a good number of guys that could go many different rounds this year. And it's a sign of a successful program, right? The more guys you send to the NFL, it shows not only that you're bringing in the right caliber of players, but you're developing them at a higher level for the next level. So it's good to see. We should get excited, and it's good to kind of speculate. Once again, we're not Mel Kiper. We're not.
What are you talking
ESPN.
about? We're experts.
We don't watch tape all day, but I think it's just fun to have some speculation and give our expert insights into
and our fans, our viewers, they may disagree with us.
Yeah,
and that's okay. Let us know.
That's what this is about. We're not here to give you the gospel of Florida State football and tell you what to think, right? This isn't a Florida State propaganda show like some others may be. We want you to have your own ideas. We want you to have your own thoughts. And this is just a stir conversation. So let's get into it. So Florida State has, like we said, a number of draft eligible players. And one of these graphics, if you look at it, I'll bring one of them up now, shows once again you have a good number of players who are once again not only draft eligible, but have a decent ranking in terms of where they rank in position rankings of their class that are available in the draft, but as well as overall rankings in terms of prospects. So right here, this is 10 plus players that could be potentially drafted. I'm looking at there's many different sites, NFLDraftBuzz.com, just for a comprehensive player list of players from Florida State. So we'll go down the list of these folks and think about it first. But quickly,
and we have not pre-discussed this. We have not. No. This isn't scripted. This is going to be our opinions. We may or not agree with each other. And if there's viewers out there, weigh in. That's the fun of this. We're not here to sell an agenda. We're not here to hug and kiss everybody to get view clicks. We're here to give our opinions. That's what we do.
Absolutely. So you just want to go. So what I've done once again is I've kind of created a kind of chart here where we can give debates and we can kind of find a middle ground if we don't agree on where we think these players should land. And once again, I'll add them to the chart and we can go through and determine who we think each of these players from this list, where we think they'll land. Jared Verse, Keon Coleman, Trey Benton, we can go down the list and give our thoughts. And then when the time comes and the draft comes and goes, we can see how close that is. But I think this is going to be a little bit of a mixture of where our personal opinion of where we think these players should go. And once again, that's the difficulty of the draft process, because some of these players will be going to the combine. We've already had the Senior Bowl for guys like for guys like Braden Fisk, who was able to participate in that. Jaheim Bell was there as well participating. So, we've seen some of these guys have had the chance to further increase their draft stock in a way. Other guys will have additional ways they can do that in the combine. So once again, we're looking at this from a perspective of where we think they should land potentially and where they may deserve to be. And that may be different where obviously teams think they should be picked, right? So let's kind of discuss that right now. And let's start at the top.
Well, wait a minute. Let's you made a comment about the Senior Bowl. Let's start there for a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's start at the Senior Bowl for a minute, because I found that a little bit interesting. Like Johnny Wilson, and I get the Senior Bowl. Let's face it, that is kind of an interesting bowl in a sense. It's kind of a resume builder for the NFL because it's NFL coaches that are running the show there. Okay, these are active coaches. There's a lot of scouting that goes on, not only during the game, but more during the practice sessions that take place. And people may or may not know that. So it's kind of a valuable resource if you need it to help your resume. Now, let's take, for instance, Johnny Wilson was invited to the Senior Bowl. He went to the Senior Bowl. He practiced in the Senior Bowl, but he never played in the game. Mm-hmm. You're aware of that, right, KB?
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't play. Yeah, there's a lot of people that went and practiced, but they did not participate in the actual game. So people should understand that. And I understand that Johnny Wilson and his agent probably say, you don't need to risk some stupid injury prior to the draft here coming up in this game. You worked out. And he had a mixed workout, I think, during the practices. The first day he had some drops. The next day
they do a lot of one-on-one
he showed
drills.
up. Yeah, they do a lot. So my point is, some of these guys did not play in the game. But one guy who did, as we go through the list, that I know of for sure, and you can contribute to this, is Braden Fisk did participate in practice, and he did participate in the game. He was a last-minute switch over from the team he was assigned to another team. Not that it matters. No. But,
But it shows he wants to play. He wants to play.
It shows I don't give a damn what team I'm going to throw people around anyways. And he actually had a very, very good and positive showing during the entire week
Yep.
Okay, so there's an example of a guy who said, I will practice, I will play, I'll do whatever they want me to do. And we had guys, like I said, who didn't play in the actual game. So very interesting.
Yeah. Like you said, I think
you got opinion on that? Or?
Yeah, I think there was different opinions on the Senior Bowl, and with that many opt-outs, I think there was 10 to 15 plus opt-outs of the Senior Bowl, and people brought up the debate of like,
you mean opted out of the game or practice?
Yeah, opted out of the game.
The game, yeah.
And so, and I think the debate was becoming like, is the Senior Bowl going to be something that doesn't exist soon because of things like that?
Right.
And that if people are not playing in bowl games, why are they going to risk it at the Senior Bowl?
Exactly.
So, like, things like this may not exist anymore just due to the fact that it's too much risk and guys don't see the benefit of it. Now, I think, like you said, the benefit is the practices where you get to meet some of these coaches who are scouting. You get to go through those one-on-one drills and stuff like that.
Right.
But especially for the guys that are trying to raise their stock, these things, bowl games are, these kind of what showcase games are really going to be the most benefit, obviously, for the guys who are in the mid-tier or undrafted kind of caliber rounds. The Braden Fists, Kalen DeLoaches, guys like that who are fighting to get a chance at the NFL or increase their draft stock to make more money, potentially. This is what those games are for. These games are not for the top 2% of guys who are going to be drafted, right? Those guys had nothing to gain from this kind of process. But really, and the only reason those guys would maybe go is to try to kind of talk to certain teams and say, I want to be on your radar, and is that mutual? And some of that is for naught, because it's not like a team could try to trade up for that player if they create a connection, right? Because you hear all the time how certain top 5 picks or quarterbacks don't want to be drafted by certain teams anymore. And if they create that connection, maybe a team really does fight to trade up for a certain player. But yeah, if you're a top 30 player, top even 60 player, these kind of showcase games don't really make sense to you. So I think these games will go away? Maybe, but they still mean a lot to guys like you just talked about, the Braden Fists who are fighting, who have fought to get from Western Michigan to Florida State to now add a chance at the NFL. They mean a lot to guys like that, right? Especially when you got shafted out of the playoffs and couldn't really showcase yourself against the highest competition. I really do think it means a lot.
Now,
so, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Besides Braden Fisk, because I was kind of looking at the box scores and everything, I didn't see any other FSU players who participated in the game. Did you?
No, Jaheim Bell, I think, didn't play. Yeah, I think he was the only big contributor.
I think he was the only Seminole who was invited and
no, that's not true.
Didn't play in the game.
No, there was multiple invited, but I think he's the only one that played in the game.
That's what I meant. Now, in my opinion of that, I don't think Braden Fisk had to play in that game. I think the NFL at this point knows who Braden Fisk. Wait a minute. Who knows who Braden Fisk is? Okay, and they can look at his tape the whole season. They've got 13 games to look at, right? Or 14 or whatever the hell it was. We're 13-0, 13-1. But to look at, he didn't play against Georgia, correct?
No.
Okay, he 13-0 games to look at where he was a beast. Okay, he was the best defensive lineman, in my opinion, on Florida State this year. So I'm not sure why he wanted to play in that, but obviously his agent thought, and himself and his team of representatives thought it's worth the go in this, and he showed up and he showed out in that regard. So we can start from the top, given that.
Well, I just one more point on that. I do think it does benefit him to play in a game like that, if only for the fact to create connections with certain coaches who may, like I said, fight for him to be on their team or not. Because I don't think he is high on guys' draft boards right now. I think he is showcasing what he has, and he may be he's definitely, in my opinion, should be drafted, and we'll discuss that and debate that. But I think that week gives guys opportunities to create those connections and really, if a coach falls in love with a player, then like I said, that can almost guarantee that they will go ahead and fight to draft that kid, right? So I think for a guy like that, it's not only what you show on tape, but if he can create a great impression on the coach in that kind of environment right there, that's where it benefits him. A guy that may be a mid-draft guy, not a top 3 round guy, but a mid-draft guy, he may get an extra round or 2 higher because he created that connection where a team fell in love with him or a coach fell in love with him, where he's like, I saw what that guy can do. I had a great, I made a connection with him. I want to get him because I know he can make an impact versus just watching tape on a player. That's
yeah.
right.
And let's face it, the Florida State coaching staff gets calls from NFL scouts where they show up and they start asking, about certain guys. And so they're going to get asked about any of these guys. Now, this list concerns me a little bit. And I think I'm looking at the same list, or have been the same list you're looking at, which is what is it called?
Draft
Buzz. Something bothers me about this. And number one is, where the hell is Deloach on this list?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't know if Kalen Deloach is getting a ton of draft buzz right now.
I guess they're assuming he's not on this list because he's more likely to be a free agent signee. Okay, so that's why he doesn't show up on this list that we're using. This isn't our list. This is a list off that website. Okay, and Maurice Smith, I thought he had another year. Did I miss something there?
No, Maurice Smith is coming. He's back. So that's
why is he on here?
Because I think he was eligible. Like I think that's the difference here. Like I said, this once again, this isn't like the end all be all site. I think
I understand.
Just use it as a.
We're just using it as a reference guide, but we want people to know this isn't our list. Okay, we're just going to use it as reference. Okay, you ready to go?
Yep, ready to go. All right. Okay. So we can start at the top. We can start at the top of that list as a reference point. So Jared Verse, obviously he was the guy that was most hyped 2 years ago, who many thought could have opted out and went straight to the NFL. He comes back for another year, puts up very similar numbers, especially towards the end of the year. He really came on towards the ACC title game and closing out the year strong with that defensive line. Obviously transferred from Albany and had 2 strong years at Florida State. He's got everything you want: size, speed, 6'4", 260. Has a great motor. Things against him always were, is he just a strength guy? Does he have the technique? And I think he's gotten better with his technique. And I think 2 years at Florida State did help him get better with that. And often at Florida State, you saw him get double teamed and stuff like. I think this is obvious. Is that I think he can even. I think he has a higher ceiling too. I don't think we've seen the best of Jared Verse. I think going to the NFL, he'll have the ability to develop even more his tools. I still think he's very raw in his ability and what he can do. So I'm going to say for Jared, I would put him obviously first round. I don't think this is really a debate.
Yeah, let's remind everybody, and I had to refresh my mind, that generally, and this has fluctuated in the NFL, but this year's draft, there should be 7 rounds, okay? Yep. Is 32 teams. So the first round is going to be picks 1 through 32, unless I'm missing something. Okay. Now, the question is Jared Verse a top 32? Is he one of the top 32 players in the country coming out? Yeah. I got to believe he is. I got to believe Jared Verse, everything that I've read, everything I've seen, and obviously we've seen him play every game, okay? Jared Verse came back and improved his stock. He needed to come back. He was able to basically avoid any major injuries. I question his ability to stop the run a little bit. I'm not saying he's inadequate. I think that's going to be his greatest challenge for development, is stopping the run. We know he can get up the field. He's probably going to have to perfect his technique a little bit better because he's going to be playing against the best offensive tackles in the game, okay? He's going to be playing against seasoned veterans of the NFL. So But given all of that, he is probably the most recognized name on the Florida State roster going to the draft. And so, yes, I will place Jared Verse into the first round. I'm not going to get into what number it's going to be. There's plenty of that stuff out there, unless you're going to get into that. I just say he's going to be first round.
Yeah, I think he's graded between the first and third overall defensive ends. I don't think there's any question that he's a first round pick, and he has first round talent beyond. Like I said, I think he's got a lot of room for growth. So I think we'll agree there. Next up, we will Keon Coleman. He's probably rated the second, potentially the second best recruit, or second best prospect out of Florida State right now, based on his physical tools. I mean, this was a guy that obviously really broke out. You knew what he had last year, and he showed his capabilities as a playmaking pass catcher with his physical tools. Go up and get it. Great hands, probably the best hands on the team last season. By and large, it will make the contested catches for you. So I mean, for Florida State and for Keon Coleman, his size is one of his biggest benefits too. NFL likes big receivers, 6'4", 215, has decent speed. I think for me, Keon Coleman's one of those is a close fringe player for me. I think that I could easily see him going first or second. Between first or second, it depends. That's the thing. The tough thing about the draft is that he's probably rated like the sixth or fifth best receiver in the draft this year. You have Marvin Harrison who's going out, I believe.
Yes.
The kid from Washington, Romo Dunze, the Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas from LSU, and then you probably have Keon Coleman right there. So I think he's probably, and most sites have him rated like the 28th to 32 ranked overall prospect. So I do think he gets into the first round, and I think he deserves to be in the first round. Like I said, I think he's one of those players who will only get better. I think we really only scraped we only scraped the surface of what he had last year. I really think that if you get into the playoffs, if we really get our shot at it, Jordan Travis is healthy. I really think his numbers really start to explode towards the end of the year. Last year, I really like the guy. I think he's a smart kid, and he's got, like he said, great physical tools. But that is the thing that is tough, because the guys ahead of him, like Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome, Malik, Brian Thomas, those are big receivers too. So I don't see him jumping. It's going to be, does a particular team like him better? Do they have better conversations? Do they like him for a particular reason better than those players, where he could jump up to a top, 15, 20 pick? Overall, I do think he's worth a first round pick, and I'll put him there.
Keon obviously was a big asset to this team, leading to 13 victories, without a doubt.
Yeah.
He was able to take some of the attention off Johnny Wilson and even Jaheim Bell a little bit. So they couldn't double cover, these other guys. And he is a dynamic playmaker. The question is, it's always with running backs and wide receivers. How much of a playmaker are you? Are you that good enough to take you in the first round? Which means if you're taken in the first round, they expect you to make an immediate impact and play right away.
Yeah.
The question is Keon Coleman ready to play right away? Is he an every down type guy? Like Jared Verse we were just talking about. Is Jared Verse going to be an every down type?
I don't think you have to be every down.
No. But what I'm saying is Jared Verse just going to be used on third down or pass rush type opportunities, or can he play the run game as well? So these are the questions probably about these two guys. And Keon, like I said, he is a show guy. He kind of reminds me of Peter Warwick. Now, he's bigger than Peter Warwick. Peter Warwick was Mr. Everything at FSU, had this dynamic career at FSU. I don't know what he was drafted, what round. I think he was a first round guy. I'd have to look that up.
Wait, who? Sorry?
Peter Warwick. Yeah. Yeah, Peter Warwick. I'd love to see what his draft status was, but he was only in the league like 2 or 3 years. He wasn't in the league long. And you guys, somebody out there can look it up.
He was first round, 4th overall.
He was first round, 4th overall, and he was only in the league like 3 or 4 years.
No, he was in the league for 6 seasons.
He was?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm wrong. Okay. But, his career was relatively short compared to, because his reception started to go down. I don't know if he wasn't being targeted, he had drops, whatever. But Keon Coleman is the type of guy I think could be a very dynamic NFL player, make huge contributions, excite fan bases, or he's going to be a bust. But given that, I will say he's kind of on that tail end of the first round. I'm a little scared to put him in that tail end. But you know what? I will. I'm going to put Keon Coleman in the first round, or he would be a high 2nd round pick.
I agree with everything you said. I think with Keon Coleman, and this is not a knock against Jordan Travis, but I think Jordan Travis is a very good quarterback. But I think if you imagine if you put Keon Coleman with a Justin Herbert, or if you put him with a Patrick Mahomes, or I think an elite I don't think Jordan Travis has an elite arm. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. But I think that's where Keon Coleman, and with his hands and his body control and his ability to make contested catches and want to make those catches, his ability to go over the middle if he needs to, or high point the ball. I think all those physical tools will make him a 1st round pick, and that's what you see on tape over and over again.
The pressure on Keon Coleman, just like it will be on Johnny Wilson or Jaheim Bell, is hands.
But I don't question Keon's hands. That's not a. I don't think that's a debate with him.
He had a couple of drops. I mean, he had a couple of drops at times, but in the NFL, there's no room for that.
Yeah,
absolutely
drops aren't concerned with me with Keon.
Okay.
All right, so we'll say 1st round there. Okay. Let's move on then to Trey Benson. So Trey is an interesting. This is an interesting one because, when we got Trey out of from Oregon, coming off the injury, you weren't sure what's going to happen. He's coming off a major injury, tore, terrible knee injury 4 years, it's 4 years ago. But when he came over, tore his ACL, MCL, and his tendon, and his hamstring all at once. Terrible. But he came back, rehab, worked his tail off, and then had 2 very, very successful seasons at Florida State. And in the running back room that did, share the ball a bit, which I think for him was good because he didn't have to carry the load and carry the ball 25 times per game. But he is a violent runner. He is a guy that seeks contact, is willing to run over guys. He's a big dude, has speed. I think we saw a lot of his really great long speed, right? His ability to really accelerate over the
field. Get to the next level.
Yeah, have that 5th gear. I think where his vision got better over time, but he doesn't have, I don't think, the best field vision to see the hole at times. And I think sometimes that hurt him and it hurt the team when he couldn't see the holes when they developed. And I know they weren't always there, and he made the most of what was available to him at times as well. And also I think sometimes it's he wasn't always the best in pass protection, and that's something that you have to be in the NFL to succeed a lot of times over to be a high value pick, is that you have to be a willing and competent pass protector. And I think when Florida State asked him to do that a lot, it wasn't always consistent in the results they got out of him. And I think a combination of
what about catching the ball out of the backfield?
I think he's an above average to very good pass catcher of the football. I mean, I forget which game it was, but he caught an over the shoulder one on the sidelines from Blake during the bowl game, I think it was, or it was in the ACC championship game. I remember down the sideline, he caught it like behind his body, like it was like a fade, like it was meant to be like that. I think he has pretty good hands. I don't know if they use his hands enough while there, but he has really good body control, especially with his hands, and it's natural. He doesn't wear gloves to my knowledge. I don't remember him doing it, so I don't have any concerns about his hands at all. So I think that is a good positive for him. But I do have concerns about his vision, and it's concerns about the amount of body blows he's taken over time. This isn't, running backs have a short shelf life, and this is a guy that's had major injuries, is not the best blocker in pass protection, and has seek contact, right? We know how many missed tackle how many times he led, college football in missed tackles for yards after contact. But he's taken a lot of body blows, and he's inflicted a lot of body blows, right? So I think for me, this is a tough one to grade. Let me hear your thoughts before.
You know what I liked, and I think it goes to the staff at Florida State and Norvell and company, that we talk about development of players, and college football now is really the development of players to get to the next level, to the NFL. Now, it's a small percentage, obviously, but I think they used Trey Benson more for catching passes. They gave him opportunities to show the NFL, I can catch balls, because the NFL wants running backs who can catch balls. Trey Benson, I think, is an explosive guy. I agree with your vision a little bit. His vision's going to have to get better. Trey is going to be remembered at Florida State, just like Keon and Jared Verse. They're going to be remembered as guys who came in, great attitude, hard worker. A guy who comes back from a knee injury like that and plays major college football, it's a tremendous performance by Trey Benson. And he's going to be remembered here. I don't see Trey in the first or second round, because running backs, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but there's so many running backs in the NFL who shift, or veterans that are out there, that you've got to beat out to get into to be the backup or even the third running back on a team. Or Trey may have to make it on special teams, and he hasn't played a lot of special teams. Yeah. So I'm gonna put Trey. I'm not gonna put Trey in the second round. I want to say he's gonna be late third round, maybe fourth round. I hate this, and there's a lot of probably FSU people go, "What the hell are you talking about?"
I would agree with
that's
you.
where, because it's not about Trey, it's about the league. It's about the league and how many running backs there are out there that, that he's going to have to battle against.
Well, I just showed you there's a ton of running backs. We know the NFL doesn't value running backs as much because there is so
they
many.
Can get them. They
look to use them for 3 or 4 years, and then they look to replace them again. They draft them because these guys are they're only healthy for so long, and they know that. And I just showed you where CBS is rating Trey Benson as, look how many.
I didn't even look at that. Yeah, I don't
look how many are in front of him. You got guys like Jonathan Brooks, Will Shipley, the guy esteemed from Notre Dame. I mean, Blake Corum from Michigan. There's Ray Davis. There's so many good running backs available, and only so few teams. I'm
going to put Benson as fourth round.
Yeah,
it could be lower. I don't think it'll be higher. It could even be lower.
And because of that fact that NFL teams like to bring in running backs because they want to replace the old with the new and get new bodies in, fresh bodies, and see what they can find. I do think grinder. That he will be a second day guy. So I agree with you. I think he's fringe third or fourth. And I don't know. I can't recall if he got a combine invite or not, but that could help him. Like I said, if he shows out and shows his long speed in his hands more during the combine, a team could fall in love and say, "Hey, we can get some value out of this guy at the third or fourth round." But So you said third or fourth?
I think he's going to go fourth round.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went third. I think that second day value is most likely where he lands there. Okay, so we got him there. Next one on our list, let's go through, is going to be, we're kind of talking about him, Johnny Wilson. So Johnny Wilson, as we all know, he's got very he's got incredible size for his position. I think at the Senior Bowl, they measured his hands and they said they've never seen hands the size that he has, like just ginormous hands. For a guy of his, size or a guy that plays his position. Pretty good speed. I think he's able to showcase his speed at times at Florida State. He's definitely not a slow guy. He's able to make the cuts. He's able to get past guys when he has time and when they put him on those routes. He can change direction. He can go through the middle of the field. He can get open. He's able to block on the outside as well. He's not a guy that's big and not useful, right? He is able to make blocks on the outside, block DBs for runs and stuff like that. And he has the ability to catch outside of his body at times, right? We've seen him make some unbelievably tough catches that were low or away from his body, up here. He's not a guy that always has to catch it into his body that we see so often on other teams or stuff like that. He has the ability to use his long frame to catch balls. And that's really is a big moneymaker, right? The thing that hurts him, as we all know, we don't have to keep harping on this, is that there is that inconsistency with those types of catches, with the ability to consistently make the easy catches, I think, at times, right? So many times did we see him drop what seemed like would be a routine catch for him. And then the next play or 3 plays from then, he would make an unbelievable catch. It was just some of that inconsistency that will get you instantly cut in the NFL, right? If you cannot, you see it with Kadarius Toney of the Chiefs and how, that whole saga has gone on. But there's so many players that had so much great ability that if you can't consistently catch or you drop 2 balls in a game, you may not see the field again just because it can cost you a game. And there's sometimes, and some people have said it knocked his ability to his start explosiveness. And you could say that may be because of his size and the way he's built, right? So last year, once again, 600 yards and 41 receptions, only 2 TDs. I don't care about that. I think we all saw the impact that he had. He had very similar numbers to Keon Coleman in terms of yardage. Keon Coleman got most of the touchdowns last year in terms of receiving. This is a tough one for me because he is a physical specimen at the receiver position specifically. Now, could a team look at him and say, could we use him as a tight end at some point if it doesn't work? Could he play both way? Could we use him in the tight end formation at some point? Could we use him in multiple positions? Maybe. This is really tough. Once again, I'll get your opinion before I state where I think.
Johnny Wilson. Excuse me. Excuse me. Johnny Wilson is another name we're going to remember for a good while. Is he a guy whose name's going to get up on Doak Campbell Stadium? Probably not. Again, I think the staff has done a wonderful job developing all of these guys.
Yes, he's a great case study.
Keon Coleman came in as a basic athlete that could do everything, but Johnny Wilson was a guy they took as a developmental project pretty much and turned him into an NFL prospect.
Yeah.
I question his speed to get downfield. I question his ability at this elite level of the NFL to get free of defenders, because you're playing against the elite now. I don't know if the tight end thing will work unless he was a developmental there and really gets his blocking up. Really can do that. His hands are going to be the key when he gets drafted. He's going to get drafted. And he's going to have to be on with the catches, because the drop issue is something that's been hung around his neck since he started in college, and it hasn't really gone away. So that, in my mind, drops his stock. It drops his stock, and I think he's going to be. He could be a late 5th or possibly drop to the 6th round.
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought up that speed there. And I think there's also been some The speed issue, like I said, I think he has good speed for his size, but there is that ability to create separation on routes that may be a red flag for some NFL teams. Because if you combine that separation issue with questionable hands at times, that could create a red flag for a team wanting to draft him early. I think that this could be potentially a steal for a team, because I do think he will slide. I do think he will slide, and I agree with you. I think he'll be around the Trey Benson day 2 value pick, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. So I'm gonna go around here with the Trey Benson 4th or 5th round. But I think with that, a team is going to get incredible value, because I think Trey Benson again is a guy that could only be getting better, right? I think he has a complementary piece to Keon Coleman last year. He's gotten better. It feels like he's gotten better, but like once again, if it can click with his hands and just the consistency there, sky's the limit to him. He could be similar to Mike Evans, and he could become that type of player. I think landing at the right team is better for him than being a 1st round pick on a garbage team. I think if he could land with a team where he could fit in and continue to develop and
maybe not be one of the top 3 guys on the receiving core,
I think battling to be like the 3rd or 4th. Yeah. I think not necessarily being bench full time, but I think if he could fit in the right situation, once again, with a good quarterback, that a good quarterback in a good situation with a good coaching staff, I think that's more beneficial to Johnny Wilson. Just like when he came to Florida State, he came into a good coaching staff that was able to work with him, develop him. I think for him, that's even better on the next level as well than going into a garbage franchise that is like, hey, we're going to put you out there day 1, see what you got, and if he messes up, then he's gone, right? So I think this will work out.
I think a Dagby who says he can use his arms and hands as an advantage, because he is a big physical guy.
Yeah.
In the NFL, they'll allow you to be more physical. Okay, you have to be physical as a receiver just to get off the damn line of scrimmage sometimes. Because their defensive backs play a lot of one-on-one stuff. So he is going to have his opportunities.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
But if he can't break free of the defender, the quarterbacks are not going to target him that much. So I think that's where we are on Johnny. Guy, we will remember his name.
Absolutely. All right, next up we'll look at Braden Fisk. So we already talked in the beginning about his
right.
going to Senior Bowl, stuff like that. I think the positive things about him is his motor, great movement skills with him. You see it all year long. He gets off the ball extremely fast. He has great strength. He's a well-built in terms of 6'3", 295, big guy, kind of squatty with his arms. He doesn't have the longest arms, but he's very powerful with his size. He uses his body well. He's got good weight. He's not a big guy who's sloppy. He's really well built, as we all know, and very, I think, solid in pass or in run protect or run attacking the run, and is really, really great on that. And I think he's got great technique. I think he's able to not only cause pressure, but I think he's able to get to the quarterback pretty well. I think he's got great technique and great tools as a defensive lineman. Some of those negatives on him that have been mentioned is some of his stance. Some people say that he stands out of his stance, which causes issue with better offensive linemen who can get good leverage, and that some of his handwork needs to be improved. Once again, these seem to be things that could be worked on. These seem to be more technical things that, once again, this is a guy that worked up from being an under-recruited guy at Western Michigan to 1 year at Florida State. This is another guy, I think, in the right staff, the right program, the right developmental place can get even better and be a high-value pick. Finished last year with 43 total tackles, 9 for loss, and 6 sacks. Great year along that defensive line. That was dominant all season long. I think this is a guy, once again, who will be a high-value second-day pick. I think him going to stuff like the Senior Bowl, I think he actually did earn a combine invite, if I'm not incorrect. I think that was one of the things he got out of going to Senior Bowl and performing at a high level. I think he did get a combine invite, which is great for him, which will only help him more.
Which means they want to see more of him. They want to evaluate him more,
So I think he's like a fringe late 5th to 6th or 7th round. So at day 3, I think he'll get a lot of day 3. I think really the combine now will determine whether he's a day 2 pick or he slides into day 3. He'll definitely get drafted in my eyes, but the combine and his performance there now will determine where he gets drafted. Because I think there he could really prove to some teams and create relationships where they say, we're willing to spend one of our early draft picks in the 5th round to take a risk or take a gamble that he is worth that pick there. We don't want him to slip to a team in the 6th and 7th, right? So that's my opinion.
Well, generally the draft, the first 3 rounds, they want some instant playmakers. They want guys who have immediate impact. There are a lot of defensive linemen around the league, veterans too, who are always fighting for positions. So you can find defensive linemen around.
Yeah.
I like Fisk. I think he was a great portal guy. I think he developed. He's got a great attitude. He works hard, like most of these guys we're talking about. They just went in and just really worked their asses off. Fisk is a guy I think was our best interior defensive lineman on this team this year. I was always impressed with his motor, how quickly he gets after people. And he played in that Senior Bowl, and he put up some numbers that caught some people's eyes.
Yep.
He's relentless. Relentless. He has a lot of pressures. He may not get the sack, but he has a lot of pressures on guys. The question is, can he take the run? Can he protect the run into the middle of the field a lot? Because he's going to be playing against superior offensive linemen now. There's no more college guys. These are veterans who are fighting for a living every day. I like Fisk, and I see him, though, probably on day 4. I'm going to say he's day 4 guy, 4th round guy. I shouldn't say day. I don't know how many rounds they're going to go.
4th round would be
4th round.
Day 2, I believe.
Okay, 4th round. I'm sorry. Yeah, I see Braden as a 4th round. Could drop to the 5th round, but I like the guy. He's the type of guy I'd want to see a lot more of if I was a scout.
I think he's a guy that could be a key rotational piece for you.
Yeah.
I think a role player contributor, not going to be an every down guy, but definitely a contributor and a role player for you. The biggest negative against him, I think right now, is that he'll be a 24-year-old rookie. And I think
I don't think that matters.
Yes, 100% it matters. Especially for if he was going to be an early round pick. Teams don't want to invest a lot of time and money into a guy that by the end of his rookie contract is going to be almost 28 years old. I think, if you're going to invest a lot of time and money into a young process, it's different if the guy's 22 or 21 and you can develop him. If he's 24, a lot of that technique and stuff too, and I'm kind of arguing my own point before, but I think if you're 24, some of those techniques that you've learned are hard to unlearn. Also, your body's taken a lot of abuse by that time, So injuries come into play. You have to start thinking about injuries.
He was injury free this season, which is a big
no, he wasn't.
Then.
He was battling through injuries most of the year, so I wouldn't say he was injury free. He was battling. He was in a boot every practice.
Okay. But he played every game.
That's what I'm saying. He played every game, but I wouldn't say he was injury free. But being 20, age definitely comes into play, and that is going to be a big thing that you see coming into this next wave of draft guys. There's going to be a lot of guys who are on their 6th or 7th year, and they're going to see their draft stock plummet. They're because of you're going to see 25, 26, 27-year-old guys being eligible for the draft, and they're not going to. It's going to hurt them because NFL teams, unless you're a superstar, aren't going to invest.
I think you're going to see
a lot of
more
first, second, or third round money into guys that are 27 years old.
I don't dispute what you're saying. I think you're going to see more guys who have longer stints in CFB. Just who was that guy from Miami? He said like 9 seasons.
Yeah.
Because there's that where some guys could get a great NIL deal, figuring I may make my money in college now versus in the pros. I may not make it in the pros, so I'll try to make my money here. So I'm just throwing that out there that guys could stay in CFB longer than usual.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm talking about guys. But I'm just want to bring up the point. But I do think that if he were looking at a potentially a second or third round grade, I think his age may.
He's not going to be second or third.
If they were looking at him versus the guy that's 22 and they look similar, they're going to take the younger guy.
He's not going to be a second or third round guy. He's more likely to be probably fifth round in my estimation.
All right, so let's look at the next guy. Let's look at Jaheim Bell.
Yeah.
So Jaheim Bell, obviously tight end, had a decent year at Florida State. Definitely wasn't a, he definitely had his moments. Had a great game against LSU to begin the year. Was a good weapon. Did what was expected of him this year, right? Do it all kind of guy. They used him in different kind of pieces and different ways here at Florida State. I think for him, some of the positives is that he's an above average athlete in the open field for a tight end. He's got great footwork, great ability, great speed. Can move after the catch. He can break tackles. He's got great strength, and he's got good hands. He's got really good hands. What hurts him is that he's not like a super long. He's not a Johnny Wilson type. He doesn't have long arms. He doesn't have the biggest hands. He's built kind of like a truck. He's short. He's kind of he's got shorter arms, but he's strong. He's not kind of looking like the prototypical tight end in the NFL right now because that shortness, that stockiness, if you want to put it that way. And the other thing is that he is not an elite blocker. He is not, for a tight end in what NFL teams look for, he is not a very good blocker. And many times he did get blown up at Florida State in terms of his blocking ability. And he's strong with the ball in his hands, but not strong when looking to shield those blocks or looking to win on the line of scrimmage many times. But overall, last year, 39 receptions. I think he had around 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. Definitely, like I said, is a weapon with the ball in his hands. But it'll be interesting because he's not a Brock Bowers, right? He's not that caliber of a tight end prototype. But, you look at Brock Bowers and what he looks like. He looks like a regular guy when you see him out of his pad. So it's interesting what these guys do when they're actually on the field and what they become. So what are your thoughts on Jaheim Bell and what he could potentially do in the NFL?
For me, it's a mixed it's a mixed bag. I think he has ability, but I agree pretty much with your summary about Jaheim. I wanted him to be more of a factor in Florida State, at Florida State. I don't know if they, I guess he had 30 catches this past season?
Yeah, for 500 yards last year.
For a tight end, that's pretty good.
I think he had a pretty
It just
good year.
seemed like it was a silent thing, It wasn't real dynamic from, God, I really remember when Jaheim did this. I don't remember that. Not that he has to be, but the blocking thing is a big deal in the NFL. For that reason, I think he's going to be a late round choice. I say 6th, 7th round. He could fall out of that and be a guy who gets contacted by a team to sign as a free agent. That's my thinking.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would say 5th to 6th round pick as a developmental, high skill developmental prospect, because like you said, he doesn't fit in the box of this NFL tight end.
And can he play special teams? I don't know if he can play special teams to make the roster.
Yeah, because as many pointed out, as many sites and many people point out, you can't play him today because he can't block by NFL standards.
Right.
You couldn't put him on the field because of that right now.
Right.
But can he develop that? Can they teach him that? Can they develop into a blocker?
Well, you have to ask
in a couple
yourself,
years?
If he hasn't learned that by now, Are they
But-
going to want to fool with that? I mean,
But
there's
that's where
plenty
you-
of tight ends,
That's why you spend a 5th round pick and say, we like everything else he has. We like his hands. We like his speed. We like
Fifth
everything.
round still high,
Exactly. And that's where a team would have to kind of fall in love with everything else about him and like his interview and like what he's done in college and his movability, right? Like, could you use him in a fullback set? Like, many like some NFL teams like to play gadgety and they like to, move a guy in the slot. And because he could play as a slot, you could move him from the tight end position into a slot position. And he'd be fine, right? So I think it's his versatility is actually a strength of his, even though the pass blocking is a negative for him.
Yeah, could be.
That's maybe what will get him drafted.
Do you see him not being drafted and come on as a?
No,
I think he's going to go and he's going to get drafted.
I think a team will take a chance on him.
Okay.
I don't think there's enough other overly talented tight ends that will keep him off the board.
Okay,
that's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think he's probably a top 5, top 7 tight end available, and I think you usually see that many get drafted every year. So I think he's good. Next, let's talk about Jordan Travis. And this is an interesting one. So obviously he was at the Senior Bowl, couldn't participate, still battling back from the injury. We all know what happened. We all know, what a shame what it was with everything and the year he was having and how he's progressed as a player from Louisville to Florida State, from, not sure if he's going to play quarterback anymore to, leading the team to an undefeated season and everything like that. So I think it's interesting. He's already started talking to some teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers were already talking to him, I think, at the Senior Bowl. And so some teams are definitely showing interest, but now that really doesn't mean anything. A lot of teams show interest in a lot of guys and, nothing actually happens. And that interest may be, hey, we're going to take you after the draft, right? We're going to, we'll contact you after. If you don't get drafted, we'll be the first one in line to sign you, right? So I think he's a hard one to project just because of the injury. We don't know how he's going to come back. I would assume healthy and everything. He'll be coming back. The things that I think will hurt him is that he doesn't have an elite arm. And that's not a knock against him. We've now known that, right? He's developed into a very good passer, right? To be able to make big throws across the field, but he doesn't have the golden arm like a Patrick Mahomes does. He can't make those unbelievable throws all across the field, but there's not many that are like that. Right. So that's not a huge knock on him. He's a game. It's hard to say. I don't know. I'm having trouble describing what I feel about him because one part of me says I think he deserves a shot, but he also doesn't have that prototypical size as a quarterback. Look at the other guys that are, voted as the top 5 kind of quarterback. Drake May, 6'4", 230. Jaden Daniels, 6'4", 210. Michael Penix, 6'3", 213. JJ McCarthy, 6'3", 202. Bo Nix, 6'2", 217. Jordan Travis is undersized for the quarterback position as well. I know that's sort of we're getting away from that narrative now with some of these more mobile quarterbacks. But so you have the injury, you have the size, you don't have an elite arm. All those things come into play, and I don't see him as being a day 1 draft pick. I could see a team taking a late 6th, 7th round flyer on him due to the fact of how they saw him perform at the highest level. How he played, how he developed into, like I said, a good to great passer, how he was able to manage many games. Also the athletic ability he has. So many times now NFL teams are looking for quarterbacks who can use their legs with their great arm, right? And Jordan Travis did become a guy that could sit in the pocket and deliver a ball while not just being totally dependent on his legs. And now is the maturation of him in his process. So I think he is a guy that can make plays with his legs, but also can rely solely on his arm if he needs to. So I think that is something that had made him draftable, whereas maybe a year ago, that would not have been the case. He really proved it to everybody this year that he could sit in the pocket and deliver the football. So I would say 6th or 7th round. If he's not injured, I think it's a whole different story. I think we could be talking about 3rd or 4th or something like that. But I'll say 6th or 7th right now.
Well, you said a mouthful there.
It was tough.
A guy that resurrected the Florida State program from
Yep.
the ashes.
Yep.
Up from the ashes, Jordan Travis brought this program back. So whatever he does in the NFL, I hope he does well.
Absolutely.
I do.
Absolutely.
However, this guy is going to get a lot of credit. His name's going to be on everybody's memory for a long time.
Yep.
Because of what he did when this program was a total disaster, and he stuck with it, and he just the story couldn't have ended any worse for him. I think the question for the NFL now, because now we're talking business, for the NFL is, what is his medical condition today? What's his medical condition 30 days from now? What has his rehab been like? Has he been cleared by doctors? When has he been cleared to begin limited activity? I'm not sure. There is a thing they call the supplemental draft. They used to have a supplemental draft. And I'm not an expert on that.
He is not going to be a supplemental draft guy.
Okay, he's either going to get drafted here, or he's going to be a free agent, right?
Yeah, undrafted free agent.
Undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's where we have this bucket down here. Yeah. If you think that.
ESPN. I saw an ESPN thing that said they're an intriguing pick in the 3rd round. I doubt that. I don't think an NFL team is going to go 3rd round for Jordan Travis. There's like 8 or 9 other quarterbacks out there that I think are ranked a little bit higher than Jordan. I thought Jordan's biggest asset was his legs, that he could put that pressure on a defense, and they started to get away from that a little bit. He got out of that. I think they wanted to show his arm more, because it is development for the next level and developing a player. I'm just a little concerned about where he is in the medical department and his rehab, and when can he start playing football again. I don't think he's going to be able to go full speed come August for a team, or July in mini camp.
By August,
I doubt that.
Be able to be, I would hope.
I doubt that. This is almost like you would have to take Jordan Travis, potentially a late round, or get him as a free agent, get him as a free agent type contract, and assign him to the practice squad so he can really get back into football. I just don't think he's ready. I don't see any indication. I haven't read any stories that he's, I don't think he's going to be at the combine. I don't think he's going to be there. It's going to be interesting to see if he works out hard at the FSU Pro Day, right?
Yeah.
Because FSU guys we've already talked about are going to be working out there probably.
Yeah.
What does
the pro days
do? No, they are important.
No, they're not.
I disagree.
For him, they may be, but I think his tape is more important than his.
I'm talking about Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
I don't think his tape is as big a deal as where is he medically now.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So I could see him being a very late round choice by somebody who believe in him, but they're also believing they've got to bring him along slowly. Like, who is the guy, Love, at Green Bay? Now, he didn't have any major injuries, but he sat for 3 or 4 years behind Aaron Rodgers. What I'm saying is...
That's the difference. Jordan Love is 25 years old right now. Jordan Travis will be 24, a 24-year-old rookie.
What I'm saying is they're going to have to give Jordan Travis some time. Well, Chris Wenke was like 28 when he was a Heisman Trophy
How was his
winner.
NFL career?
Yeah, we went with a shitty team too, Carolina. Okay, so let's not put it all on him too. But I'm thinking this questions about his ability to play now.
Yeah, I do think that
And even if they answer his medical condition is fine, I don't think he is a starting NFL quarterback who's going to walk on the field and start playing.
No, I think if it was just based off tape, he'd still be a day 3 kind of guy. And now the injury just complicates that. Right. I think you're drafting him to, if you want a veteran, if you're just looking based off tape, you're looking for a guy who has a ton of experience, who's a mature kid or a mature man, who you can bring in and compete for a backup role to give you some veteran experience behind an incumbent starter. Yeah, you're not bringing Jordan Travis. You're not drafting Jordan Travis to be your starter in the next 2 years.
Well, but he's not going to be even in my mind. If I was a general manager in my mind, he's not even going to be my backup. He'd be like the number.
He's competing to
guy.
be your backup. He's competing to be your backup.
I'm not sure, but
then don't draft him. If you're not expecting him to be able to compete for anything, why are you drafting him?
I don't know. Do you know what his medical condition is?
It's what? It'll be almost 12 months by August. More than 12 months by August.
Did he work out at the Senior Bowl? No. The answer is no.
Football. He was walking on it.
But he's not working out there even if he didn't play.
It's not a 12-month injury. So I don't, unless there's some complication we don't unheard of, then I would expect him to be able to be back by fall camp, by camp.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's what I'm saying.
And obviously the NFL scouts and general managers have that information. We don't.
Yeah, and you're not spending, and that's why you're not spending a 1st-round pick on him. So there's a difference there. So if you're taking a flyer on him in the 6th round and saying, okay, we expect you to be back, you're expected to compete here, we're taking a 6th-round pick on you. But I think that medical report will be the difference between a 6th-round pick or you're an undrafted free agent. I think that's really the best. So is that what you think, a 6th-round pick or an undrafted free agent?
I'm going to go 6th or 7th round pick.
I would agree there. I would agree there. All right. Next one we'll go with is Jarrian Jones. Cornerback, had a really good year for Florida State. Probably a breakout year for himself, honestly. Now he's getting mixed grades out of, I think Florida State fans think he'll go higher. I think different sites have him graded differently. This is a guy who was seen as a kind of a lockdown cornerback for Florida State. I'm not sure if he's getting as much buzz as some other guys have gotten as of late. Some, and I'll just say he's, 6 foot, sick a little bit, 6 foot 191. A lot of his positives are that, he moved into the slot role this year. Played a lot of off coverage, which NFL teams like. He has good size for his role, and he's able to locate the ball pretty quickly, right? And these are all things that you have to be able to do at the next level. Some of those negatives for him is that he wasn't an every down player for Florida State or any school he was at, right? He wasn't always on the field. Didn't play the high safety position at Florida State. And, he doesn't have that elite level explosiveness on the field to break on the ball. And that's something you need when you're going against some of the elite, when you're going to the NFL and you're playing against guys that have elite level arm strength, you need some of that. And that's not something that Jarrian Jones necessarily has. So I think for a guy that's long and lanky like he is and has good size and has, pretty good intangibles, and last year did show his ability. He wasn't an every down player, which is, some of those negatives against him, but it kept him healthy, had a really good year. I would say, based on all those things, and teams will take multiple defensive backs during the draft and let them battle out and see what they have. I see him as being a 4th or a 5th round pick in the draft. What do you have?
Undrafted free agent. I don't think he does anything for me that stands out as some one of the 7-round choices. I think if a team takes him, they're going to look at Jarrian as a guy who can contribute immediately on special teams, okay? And as a nickel guy, that plays not an every down defensive back who can develop but makes a team on special teams. Undrafted free agent.
But why do you see him as not being drafted?
It's just my gut level. I don't think he's done that much in 1 year. I think
It
last
wasn't
year,
just 1 year, though.
I
He's
think
played 52 career games.
No, I understand that. I think his last season was his best season, but I just don't see Jarian at this point, at this next level, as a choice that some team's going to make with one of their draft choices. So
I'll disagree with you on that,
okay,
because
that's
I
fine.
think he was
That's
graded
fine.
out really. He was targeted 32 times last year and didn't give up a touchdown.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that's, I think that a team will take a pick on him. So
My question is, he was invited to the Senior Bowl. Did he play or not play? I don't know.
I don't.
Well, it's
I
a
think
big deal. I mean, you get invited and all of a sudden you go to the practices and you just opt out. Well, that's okay. I think Jarian was a guy who could benefit, like Braden Fisk did. Jarian could have benefited by playing in the game.
Well, I don't know if he did it or not. So
I don't know. I didn't see anything that showed me he did. I could be wrong. And if somebody's out there and knows that answer, please let me know. I'm glad to eat that wrong.
Yeah. So we'll meet in the middle then, and I'll put him in the sixth or seventh round, because I think he will get drafted by a team. I do believe he will. So looking at who is next, let's look at Fabian Lovett. So this is a guy that you've had a love-hate relationship for. 2 years ago, you said he was a little bit overrated on the defensive line, and
I stand by that.
And then this year, I think he may have stepped forward for Florida State, but I think that was he had some complementary pieces on the defensive line with Braden Fisk coming there, and I think they worked well together this past season. So this is a guy that Florida State fans have really liked. I don't know if he's looked at or regarded amongst other teams as an elite defensive lineman. Just because due to the fact that he doesn't have elite level statistics, and I don't feel like consistently enough you see that impact on the field outside of what you saw last year. I think last year was probably what I felt like was his best year at Florida State since transferring in. It's tough, and he came back. He was eligible last year. And came back this last year, and I think it did help his draft stock if he is going to get drafted by coming back and playing again. But this is a tough one. I don't think he's another fifth-year senior guy, older defensive lineman. He'll be playing the Shrine Bowl. I think that already went on, so I don't know how well that went. But that, once again, participating in that is helpful for a guy like that who's trying to increase his draft stock. He's got decent strength.
You're a general manager of an NFL team.
I
would draft him or not?
No, I would rather take an undrafted free agency selection on him and have him come in and compete afterwards. I don't see enough from Fabian to say if I had to pick Fabian or Braden, I would pick Braden over him. If I had to pick
this is not now hugs and kisses for our Florida State guys that we hope go on and have great careers. We do. Yeah, but this is about business. As a general manager, I'm in agreement with you, and it was on my mind, and that is I'd invite him as an undrafted free agent. I think he had his better season this past season, and that was because Braden Fisk was there as well. You had Verse there, and it took some. They couldn't double team him. He started to show up. I see him kind of, if he could put on more weight, a team may ask him to put on more weight. He could be a guy who clogs the middle like a Derek Noddy. Remember Derek Noddy plays for really Kansas City. He wasn't a superstar at Florida State.
He was good, though. He was
good, but he wasn't a superstar. And I was shocked how well he's done in the NFL. But he plays a certain role there to hold, to fill those holes. I think Lovett could do that, but he's really going to have to come on strong in mini camp and camp to make a team. Undrafted free agent is what I see him.
I would agree with you there. There. Now, looking at another guy, I think we both another transfer who came in, and I think that's a trend. A lot of the guys who've transferred in, but have also developed while they're here. I think Tatum Bethune is a guy you got a lot of good play out of, and the guy I think who helped solidify this linebacker room for the last couple of years. 3-star kid out of Miami Central, went to Central Florida, transferred in, had one. Once again, I think had one of his best years this past season, and someone that's going to be hard to replace. It's tough for him, or tough for me to project him, because I think he'll be, he's not necessarily, he's not an elite linebacker, right? He's a solid contributor. He had 29 solo tackles, 27 assists, 2 pass deflections. Great, decent, really decent size. Can kind of play on the edge if you put him there. Somewhat, decent pass coverage, has decent speed, but not elite there. He does everything very good, but not, I don't think, at an elite level. It's tough. I think he's a guy that needs to develop. He needs to go in, sign to the right kind of staff, sign to the right program.
Okay, but the NFL is not
undrafted. It's undrafted.
Yeah, the NFL is not so much at the point of we're bringing a bunch of guys in to develop them. They're not. They're looking for performers. In my opinion, they're not looking to bring a bunch of guys in. Now you still develop. You still learn
not everyone's
your
gonna be
craft.
Impact.
I understand that.
Impact player.
I understand.
So they will take guys as undrafted free agents.
I understand that.
We're gonna take a flare on you, bring you into practice squad.
I like Tatum. I like Tatum Bethune. He's been one of our top performers in a very average linebacker room. If without Tatum Bethune, we're probably in trouble. We may not win all 13 games this past season. I think he's done an outstanding job since transferring in from Central Florida, and he's been a real asset to this team. But I will go undrafted free agent.
Yeah,
he'll have to make the team so he can develop on special teams.
Yeah, I think
his size is a problem.
Yeah, he's a little bit undersized for his role, and I think undrafted free agent's probably the best way for him.
Right. Yeah.
Find if he can find a role there.
Yep.
And
let's talk about
Kalen DeLoach then.
DeLoach,
linebacker wise.
Yeah,
talk about linebackers.
A favorite of Florida
I
State
think he
fans.
fits into the same conversation as Tatum Bethune. I think once again, Kalen DeLoach was a guy that talked about development. Really developed who he was as a player, as an impact on this Florida State team. Helped solidify the room along with Tatum Bethune. Became leaders on his team. And just, his impact, how many plays he had to impact plays during the Clemson game, how many times can you say, brought him up on the blitz and he just like a missile. He's really like you said, a guy that we'll always talk about, and his impact on this year's squad will be remembered. But he's a guy too. It's tough. He's a guy you can use multiple ways, like we just talked about. Sideline. He's really pretty good in pass coverage. He's super explosive, like I was just talking about. But there is some concerns about, can he get off offensive linemen if they get to him in the next level? Is his size, just like Tatum Bethune, is his size, be at 6'1", 215, kind of undersized there. Is that a concern there? Pretty good against the run, right? And he has that athleticism to play in pass coverage at a decent level, at a pretty good level. But it's that size and being able to shed offensive linemen in at the next level, especially in the run game, that will probably keep him off the field. And the NFL teams will have to keep him in a role-specific level. And are they willing to spend a draft pick to use him like that? Because he won't be a 3-down player right now as he's built. I do think, though, that just looking at the tape and the ways he can be utilized and his speed and explosiveness, I think this is a guy that should be drafted, and I think he will be drafted just based on the many ways you can use him and being a rotational player. So I would say I'm going to say 6th or 7th, maybe a 5th round pick, but that's where I have him. I just think he's a under the radar guy that a team will like what they see on tape and say, we can do something with this guy, whether it's on special teams starting there, but we can get him into a play calling scheme where we can use his explosiveness to our advantage, just like Florida State did many times.
Okay, I agree pretty much with your whole summary, so I'm not going to repeat it. Mr. Deloach, Kalen Deloach has done a wonderful job in that linebacker room with Tatum Bethune. Without those two guys, we don't win 13 games. It's that simple. The room wasn't that strong, but these guys stepped up and were monsters in the middle for us, even though they're not monsters in size. Deloach has speed and quickness. A team could take him as a role player to put pressure on a quarterback. Every team in the NFL, all 32 teams, want pass rushers. Okay, are they defensive ends? Are they linebackers? Are they a guy who can rush the damn passer? Because if you can't get pressure on a passer, you're going to lose a lot of football games in the NFL. So Deloach is either going to be a late 7th round pick. He could be Mr. Irrelevant. He could be the last player chosen based on his tape. If NFL scouts look at his tape and say, as you said, we can develop this guy into a specialty pass rusher from various positions on the field, mainly coming from a linebacker position. He's that fast. He's a missile. So Mr. Irrelevant, a Mr. Nobody cares about, he could be that guy. He will have to make the team on special teams. So he's either going to be late 7th round or undrafted free agent.
All right. And one of the final guys we'll talk about here is Akeem Dent.
Yeah.
Akeem Dent, common trend amongst a lot of the players talking about, I think had his best season this past season. 11 games, 10 starts, missed a couple due to injury. 5th on the team with 44 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1 pass breakup. He was an All-ACC honorable mention this past season. And as a reminder, this was one of the top recruits out of their 2019 class. He was a high 4-star, almost 5-star player coming out. So one of the few guys who was almost a 5-star player of all these players we're talking about tonight. And he finally is eligible, or eligibility is kind of extinguished here. So it is his time. I think, if we're being honest here, I don't think he showed enough consistently to say he's a top draft pick, or worth a top 6 draft pick. He's a little bit, I don't know how to say, I would say, once again, he fits into the undrafted free agent category. I think he's an older guy, older defensive back, that there's going to be a lot of younger guys who have shown more over time, and that if they're going to spend a draft pick on a kid, they'll do it on the 22-year-old or 21-year-old and spend their time there and see if they can, if they're going to develop a kid and spend more time with them, they're probably going to do it there. I think Akeem did great stuff for Florida State. A lot of experience at Florida State, that he showed some flashes here and there, but I don't think he consistently showed those flashes to show NFL teams that he can cover some of the best receivers in the world. Now, he can play coverage very well. Now, can they find the right scheme can the right team draft him and use him in coverage already? Maybe. He only allowed 3 receptions in coverage for 27 yards and didn't allow a touchdown. So he has the ability, right, in coverage to play at an elite level. It's just, will the right team identify him and say, this is a guy we can use here? We can use him at that high level. I don't know. And I think he will be at the scouting combine. So that is a place for someone like Akeem Dent to showcase his intangibles, that speed, that ability, all those things, his hands, along with his tape. Because I don't know if the tape will show the full story. I think those other things, the physical traits of his, may give him a bump on where he gets drafted. Because I don't know if he's immediately going to be on everyone's draft board high. But I think a draft combine could knock him into the 6th or 7th round versus being a totally undrafted at this point. What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure where he fits in. I don't see him as fitting in as a typical NFL safety based on his size. I think his size works against him there. He's like 5'11", weights under 200 pounds, which when you look at NFL style safeties, they're bigger than he is.
Yeah.
His speed is good. The question is, does he have the durability to stand up against big receivers? You know, the best in the NFL, the best of them. Can he do that? I don't think so. Again, a guy that's going to have to make an impact if he were to get drafted, an impact on special teams and wait his time and show up. I think he's going to be an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I think what hurts him, because I think he does have great numbers when you look at them in terms of QB rating when targeted and things like that. I think, like I said, he had his best year this past season, and I think that shows it. But I think, like you said, the physical traits, his height, weight, hands, kind of those intangible things, don't make up a prototypical what NFL teams are looking for right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's going to hurt him as a safety. And so maybe the combine, he can, shake some hands, have some good interviews, and showcase some things, maybe showcase his speed a little bit more there. And maybe that knocks him into not being undrafted. But I'm going to agree with you there. And
you know what I think? All of these guys are going to do well in interviews. All of them are going to do good when the coaches at Florida State get calls on them of how their attitudes were, how they adjusted and took on roles that just to help the team, that they're team players, that they worked their asses off, that they deserve an opportunity. Okay, and you're dealing with what 1, 2, 3% who make it to the NFL and actually make it. I mean, the odds are against you. We hope, and I know you hope, that they all are first, second, or third round draft choices. But for us to sit here and say they will all be that way, it's not right, and it's not our opinions that they will be that way. But these guys have contributed to a very special season in 2023, 13-0, and they'll always be remembered when this team comes back to Florida State in 10 years. Okay, I may not be here to see it, but you will be here to see it, and you'll remember this 2023 team of 13-0. We won't forget this season. We won't forget all the stuff that came with it. So we hope all these guys do very well. If it's not in the NFL, then maybe in the new football league that's coming about. Maybe it's in business. Maybe it's in something else, because that's where most people end up, in something else. But, we're just trying to give our opinion, which we're not experts. But I'm going to be very interested to see, because I got all my notes here, and I'm sure you do. But I think we've been very realistic.
Yeah, and I don't think that necessarily, and sometimes not being drafted is sometimes the best fit for a lot of these teams, better than going to a horrible situation. You get to pick your fate if you're undrafted free agent. You can say you may get offers from 3 or 4 different teams or 5 different teams, and you can then pick the right scenario for your future and determine, do I want to go to X team because I can look at their roster and see who they're bringing in and see if that's the right scheme and right fit for me. So, like you said, all these guys will have, I believe will have great futures regardless of where they get drafted or if they get drafted. And like you said, all these new football leagues are opening. So whether it's here or the UFL or the XFL, these guys will have the ability, if they want to continue to play football. I have no doubt that these players we just mentioned will have the ability to compete and play in a football league somewhere if they choose to do that or not. So
I mean, because it's a tough go, and players we liked from previous teams. I mean, I'm thinking of this guy. I'm thinking of Cam McDonald. Cam McDonald got drafted by Green Bay. I followed him a little bit. He was out of camp in like the first week. He wasn't there long. The NFL, not for long. And he could drop 3 passes in a practice and be gone. I mean, it's that much pressure. And they're not there to babysit people. They're there to win football games. And if you can't contribute to that winning, you're not going to be there. How many kickers have we seen get cut, after missing a kick in a game? The next day he's cut.
Yep.
I mean, it's brutal. It's a brutal business. But did we miss anybody we think is going to be eligible out there? Now, here's one thing, KB. Did you notice we haven't talked about any offensive lineman that is eligible or, for that's we don't have any elite offensive linemen.
Okay. I mean, I know where you're going with this, but to be fair, none of them are eligible.
Okay. I don't see anybody that's going to be on the 24 team that I would put as a draft guy yet. Be honest. That's just my opinion. Maybe that'll change.
That can be a whole. We'll see. Yeah, I don't think Maurice Smith is going to be a high draft pick next year. But I mean, well, we can talk about that. But I would agree with you. We can talk.
We don't need to get into that now. Yeah, we don't need to get into that now.
All right. So that does it.
Let me make one other thing, and I just want to make a comment. Dagby says Deloach third round. No way. That to me,
I would never say no way. I would never say no way.
To Dagby, one of our loyal viewers, and part of our family here.
I would never say no way.
To me, that is more of a, we all love Kalen Deloach. We love his family has done wonderful things at the, around him and supported. He's a good player. But he's not going third round. I would be shocked. And I will come on his program and eat crow if that were to happen.
Yeah, I would never say no way.
But we fall in love with certain players. I think you agree with that, right?
Yeah.
We fall in love with certain players. I'm a big Braden Fisk guy, but I'm not going to project him as a first, second, or third round guy. I don't think.
Well, I think the issue is that we get so focused on our team that we forget there's 150, 200 other college teams with linebackers or safeties or quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
And we don't watch their games religiously and see their players and see their intangibles and stuff like that. So
right.
And we just basically we went on the field last year in my eyes, and so we do assume we have the best of the best, which we by all means we did. But you forget about, teams that didn't have such great seasons doesn't mean they have garbage players. They just had maybe bad bad play callers or, didn't have. So, yeah, it's hard because we get obsessed with our players and what we have, but we forget there's all these other teams.
But
that
we
think
appreciate
the
opinions of our viewers. And Dagmy, we appreciate your opinion. That's what makes this fun. Okay?
And if he goes third round, I would love it. I'm not hoping he doesn't go third round.
I will publicly apologize to a Dagby on this program if he goes third round.
I hope they all go high.
I do too. We do
if
too.
they all go high, even better. So
exactly.
All right, that's gonna do it. I think that'll do it. So thank you all for coming out.
Now we were going to bring up a few other issues. They're kind of minor things. We'll bring that up next time.
Yeah, next time. All right. Everyone enjoy the Super Bowl, no matter who you're cheering for.
Who are you picking? Who are you picking? KB?
I don't really care.
I think the line is like 2.5 points. San Francisco. I don't get that.
I just don't care.
Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant.
That's not that, and that's
unbelievable.
But that's the whole thing. Like
he's
we
down
talk
in
about
the
Jordan
Super
Travis
Bowl.
Could go 6th or 7th round, and it's not a knock against him. These teams. You go 6th or 7th round, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be anything. You go undrafted, it doesn't mean you're not going to be anything. It's, you work your tail off, you get in the right scenario with the right team, anything can happen, right? So that's why these are projections, scouts projections, they don't mean anything. But you work your tail off, you get in the right position with the right team, you get an opportunity, and you see what happens. You see what happens. So,
that's it.
I'm
going to go with Mahomes. I don't think Brock Purdy is going to beat Mahomes. If he does, that is going to be a huge upset. And it's not only going to upset Mahomes and the Chiefs, it's going to, it's going to upset Taylor Swift.
Oh, God. Okay.
That's who it's really going to upset.
Well, not on that. I will end it. I cannot have a Taylor Swift debate in the chat.
I got a phone on the Florida State line here.
Oh, God. Here we go. All right. Well, you guys enjoy your Super Bowl. Get something good to eat. Get your snacks. Get your tailgates. Get your wings or whatever you're cooking. Enjoy that. Be safe. Do not, be safe. Enjoy the game. Don't bet too much. Don't bet at all if you don't have to. But
it's the biggest betting. They expect records in the amount of betting. And you can bet on anything, KB. They're betting on what color Gatorade will be dumped on the winning coach. What color?
Yeah, it's addiction. They feed addiction.
Unbelievable. But if you have a gambling, call 1-800. I got gambling problems.
All right, guys. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And we will see you all soon. Take care and go Noles.
Go Noles. Go.